Today's show is sponsored by the Anthony Joshua Insect Squasher, Floor Quasher, and Burglar Quasher, in case you ever need one of them. Alright, hi, hello, and welcome to the first ever episode of the SNTcast. I am the only host here at Synth, and I guess I'm doing a podcast now? That's kind of cool, I guess. Like, I've done them before, I've been guests on them quite a lot. Never ran one, though. So I guess that's what I'm doing nowadays. This isn't going to be like a 2-hour thing. I'm probably going to do like a 20-minute one every week or every couple of weeks or so, just of things that are happening during that week that I think's interesting. So this week we're going to be talking about Toy Story 4, because I saw that today, and then what my opinions currently are on Pokemon Sword and Shield, because unlike the rest of the internet, they're positive, because you people can't seem to just like the game for any apparent reason. Also, the background art was badly drawn by me. I didn't want there to be a black screen in the background, and I also couldn't be bothered to play games at like the 2 a.m. that I'm currently recording this. So we just have a badly drawn image by me in the background instead. So I guess, what do I start with? What do I start this little incoherent ramble with? I guess we'll go with Toy Story 4, because that's where I've got the most points, and I'm going to be making up a lot, well, not making up, I'm going to be saying my points for the Pokemon stuff as I think of it, because I've been planning to talk about Toy Story. I wasn't planning to talk about Pokemon, but I needed to fill the time, because I don't want 5 minutes, I want 20, that's what I'm aiming for. Anyway, Toy Story 4, I still stand by the opinion that it did not need to exist. Toy Story 3, if you ask me, probably one of the best Disney films ever made in terms of how it ended a series. You know, it followed Andy for, I think it was 10 years or something till Toy Story 3 came out, and then it was all nice. The kids go and leave Andy, that's all wonderful, and they go off to the new kid, Bonnie. And that's wonderful, because we've been following him for ages. Toy Story 1, they end up in the neighbours, and you're like, oh, you got to save them, because the neighbours are ripping Toy's arms off and whatever. I don't know what the neighbour was called, he just looked a bit like my friend. Toy Story 2, I have no idea what happened. That film could have been amazing for all I know. I don't remember it. Toy Story 3, that was wonderful. That evil bear bloke, he's there. He's not there in the fourth one. He's nowhere to be seen. He was burnt alive, I think. Probably. I don't remember the ending off the top of my head. I just remember that they left Andy, they're not with Andy anymore, and now they're with this new kid, Bonnie. That was a wonderful ending to how this 10-year trilogy of films had gone. You've followed this chapter in the toys' lives, and they're gone now. Toy Story 4, however... this is going to be complete spoilers, by the way, because I can't talk about the film whilst not talking about the film, so have fun with spoilers. It just kind of exists. First of all, you can tell that they couldn't get many of the old voice actors in. Okay, so the only characters that, the older characters that talk are Woody, Buzz, and Bo Peep. They're the only 3 old characters that are talking. Any of the old toys from the older films have about 3 lines of dialogue each. That's it. You can tell that they weren't 100% for making this film just by how little they got the voice actors to stay around and actually, just want to be there, I guess. Some of the lesser main characters, like Jessie, she has 5 lines in this film. And 2 of them are in the end credits. She's not really there. Even on the new character aspect, there's only I think there's 6 more new characters they fully introduced, maybe a few more. There's the Fork, there's the lass that owns all of the ventriloquist dummies. There's the tiny little policewoman. There is Bunny and Ducky. They're kind of funny. I mean, not really. They're Disney film funny. Is that it? Probably. It's probably it. Yeah, I actually think that is it. I've seen the film 4 hours ago, and I can't even remember. But even on the new character side of things, you'd think that if they were replacing, a lot of the lines by the older characters, they'd have more from the newer ones, and they just kind of don't. all of the lines are them, so yes, like it is replaced in a sense, but like it's not. Like there's no, because the film's really short. The film's like an hour and a half long, pretty much. I think. Hang on, let me find out the running time. Hang on. Toy Story 4 runtime. It's 1 hour 40 minutes, and I think that counts credits as well. Yeah, that counts credits, and it obviously counts. There's like a 10-minute let's say recap of like Andy's life in the beginning as well. So the film's only about an hour 20 of actual full-on content, and so in that hour 20, you don't get much character progression. Like there's the one girl called Gabby. She's a toy. She has like her entire backstory is told in like 5 minutes. That her voice box is broken, and that when it fixes, she'll become a kid's toy and best friend. That's her whole thing. She's been locked in an antique shop for like 20 years. That's it. That's her entire story. And yeah, you don't get any much backstory to any of the other characters from the older films like Rex and whatever. But I do think that this is, or should at least be, the last Toy Story film, because I don't think they can follow on from this. Not because it's good, but just because they've literally just added nothing else. At least, even though I think that Toy Story 3, it should have been left there with them leaving, at least them moving in with Bonnie was a step off to, if they did want to make this next film, which they did, they have something to go off. But this film kind of doesn't lead you with anything to go off with. The ending that I guess I'll get into later, it sort of does, but they don't leave it with a big enough cast on. If they are, so at the end it splits into essentially two different casts. There's there is pretty much all of the original old toys from the first one, and then a separate group that I'll get into. And there's not enough in the group of new toys, because there aren't many of them. Like, there's like 6 people, one of them can't speak. There's 5 really, and then on the side of the old toys, like, yes, there's like all the old characters there, but due to events in the film, they're missing one of the main people on the team. So it just kind of, they didn't leave enough to make a 5th one, which I think is good. I think if they are going to end the film, like, if ending it on 3 wasn't good enough, ending it on 4 should be fine. So, I guess, what can I talk about? I don't want to give away massive spoilers, but I've given the warning. We're just going to talk about okay, so at the end of the film, okay, so I'll start at the beginning, actually. I'm not going to start at the end, I'll start at the beginning. Beginning of the film, flashback to 9 years ago, when Bo Peep was sold, like, just before the events of Toy Story 3. And that's basically all that is. Bo Peep was sold. Then you go to the present era, so 9 years later. All the toys are with Bonnie now, and they find out that Bonnie is going to, what's it called in America? Kindergarten. That's it. I was going to call it nursery. They go to kindergarten, and Bonnie builds a new best friend. She builds Forky, which you've probably seen. Forky doesn't want to live. Forky wants to be in a bin. So Woody says it's his job to prevent Forky from going into a bin because Bonnie needs him or something. So that's like the first 10 minutes of the film, just like comedic things of, ooh, let's not let him get in a bin, hoo hoo hoo. Then they find out, because kindergarten doesn't start for another week, they're going to go on a road trip for the week. So that's that. They're all in an RV. They think, oh, that's good. Oh, Forky can't run away if he's locked in an RV. He jumps out the window. He just jumps out the window of the RV and is now on a highway somewhere. Yeah, that's a thing that happens. So Woody runs after him. He catches him, drags him 5 miles to the village where the RV's parked, because they find out, because the pig, whose name I've forgotten, just says, oh yes, the sat-nav says 5 miles to the RV stop. So Woody's like, aha, I'll walk there with Forky. So he does, and then, ooh, On the way back, they see an antiques shop that looks like it could have Bo Peep in it because Bo Peep's old lamp is on there. So Woody and Forky go in because Woody drags him instead of just letting Forky go back to the RV, because in the brief 3-minute segment of them walking back, Woody manages to convince Forky not to be trash, that he is valued and that Bonnie really needs him. In 3 minutes, they explain basically the values of friendship in the film. It's a bit weird. So they go in. Bo Peep's not there, but there is a weird toy called Gabby Gabby who controls an army of ventriloquist dummies, which I found them freaky. There are going to be 7-year-olds that saw that and will have nightmares about ventriloquist dummies, and I don't blame them. They were just a bit odd because they don't speak. They just make little noises. It's just a little bit odd just having them there, but it kind of worked because they were just henchmen, so it worked. Anyway, Gabby Gabby finds and captures Woody or whatever. She's a bit evil because she finds out that Woody was made at the same time that she was, so that Woody might have the same voice box as her. So she now makes it her goal to steal Woody's voice box, and he doesn't want that because it's sewn inside him, so his back will be ripped open. Hoo-hoo-hoo. So I think Woody gets away somehow, but Forky gets left with them because he can't escape or something. So Woody, instead of being smart and just going, "Ha! I'm not going to go back into the big place with the woman that wants to kill me," he just goes back into the place with the woman that wants to kill him. So that's like the next 20 minutes of the film, like Woody being trying to work out how to get in there. Oh no, it's not. I'm trying to. Okay, so after that, he ends up. Oh no, that's how he gets out. So the woman that owns the antiques shop that he's in, her granddaughter comes in, picks up Woody, but not Forky, and plays with her. Second that the kid turns around, Woody runs away and ends up in a sand pit, and then he finds Bo Peep again due to convenience, who's been a lost toy for 7 years. So she's been helping other toys. She drives around in a skunk now, and that's pretty much what she does now. She just fixes other toys and just does her own thing. She finds out that Woody needs her help, so she does. Yada yada yada. They end up doing some stuff and getting locked in the store for quite a while. No, as they're planning to enter the store, Buzz is like, "Haha, no, I need to find Woody because the RV's going to set off again soon." So he does some running around, sees them jumping on roofs and things. Aha, they're going over there. So let's and go after them. So now they're all in the antique store. Various events happen. Buzz, before he gets to them, finds some new people called Bunny and Ducky, who were pretty entertaining in the film. They were basically all of the comedic aspect in the film, and they weren't exactly funny. It's just when every single other character is playing the same character that they've played for 20 years, having the newer character, they're just a breath of fresh air. I think that's what made them a bit more entertaining. But I just don't really get the film because you can tell that it started in the 90s. You can tell that the characters were written in the 90s and were finished in the late 2000s. they've not been brought up to modernness, mostly because kids don't play with toys anymore. Why would you play with toys when you can play Fortnite or Roblox or something? I've never played. I've played a bit of Fortnite. I've never played Roblox. So anyway, yeah, events happen. They get Forky back. Woody gives his voice box to Gabby. Gabby ends up with the kid. I'm just skipping through this now because I don't really want to talk about this film much longer. And it gets to the point where Woody is left with the decision of staying with his normal friends from the original films, or going with Bo Peep and becoming a lost toy and just helping her help other toys find the kids to go with and stuff, and he goes with Bo Peep, and that's just how the film ends. Like, the film was just a lot of not much happening. Like, in Toy Story 3, there was, like, the evil bear, and it was all a nice continuation of that little saga, and then at the end, like I've said, they go off to the new kid, and they end where they've been, and it's great. This film, they just kind of build a thing, go on a road trip, dick about in a small village for a bit, and then the only difference is that Woody's staying there and not going back with them. Like, it's, like, that's what I was saying with, like, there's not enough there either way to make another film. Like, Woody being there now is like just like this. That means that the main group of toys, you know, they can't do stuff and things because the leader's gone, so it's going to be a bit like, it's not a full team anymore, and there's only like 6 people on like Woody's new thing, so it's not great. The film, I'm going to say it was a good Disney film. The animation, Jesus, the animation. I've not watched a Disney film in probably about 5 years. And Jesus Christ, their animation is amazing now. But I guess that's to be expected of Disney. Yeah, and I think that's kind of where I'm going to end it. Like, the film was alright. It wasn't really needed, and there was a lot of fannying about. But I guess we can talk about Pokemon now. Pokemon Sword and Shield, as I assume a lot of you know, has been met with a lot of backlash. The main issue that people have with Pokemon Sword and Shield is that not all Pokemon are going to be present in it. And honestly, I think that that's okay. Like, so the main hashtag is hashtag bring back the national dex. Hang on, I'm gonna have a drink of water. I spilt water all down myself. Oh god, oh, that's fine. So it's bring back the national dex is the main hashtag. And I understand why people are upset that not all Pokemon are going to be in the game, and I also do think that Nintendo's saying just flat out, not Nintendo, Game Freak saying flat out, we are not going to make another Pokemon game that has every single Pokemon in it. Them just flat out saying that, I do think limits them in the future in case they somehow find some way to do it. But at the same time, I don't think that people should be reacting how they are. First of all, it's, as far as I know, an unconfirmed amount of Pokemon will be cut from Sword and Shield. It could be 400, it could be 40. That's all we know. But at this, like, okay, so if it, I think the reason why they can't do it is people want the national dex. If they want the national dex, first of all, depending on how many Pokemon are entered in the Galar region, that we could hit the over 1,000 Pokemon at this point. This could be the game. I think we need, is it like 240 more Pokemon or something to get over 1,000. They can, a push, if they absolutely stretch out their ideas, they can create 240 Pokemon. 1,000 Pokemon is a lot. It's very hard to ask of any company to individually make essentially 1,000 basically playable characters, all of which with their own animations, all of which with their own movesets they've got to do, all of which with their own stats, like competitive balance if they go that way with this game and tried to make it a competitive thing like they did in Gen 5 with Weather Wars, or like they did with Sword and Shield, not Sword and Shield, Sun and Moon, making the Tapus, because I do think that the Tapus having electric terrain and, you know, grassy terrain and stuff was a move to the competitive side, because that is a ability that's pretty much only useful in competitive battling, using it as like strategic swapping and stuff. If they choose to go that way with Sword and Shield, having to think about the balance of every Pokemon, because even like just random Pokemon like Wigglytuff, my favourite Pokemon, like that has no competitive use in the high tiers, but in low tiers it's kind of this pseudo Clefable with stealth rocks and like weird move sets that you can kind of do stuff with. So in the PU tier, it has this weird niche use. Like every Pokemon in competitive has a use. Like my second favourite Pokemon is Pyukumuku. It's also my favourite competitive Pokemon because it has so many fun little sets and uses. And this is from a Pokemon that can learn no attacking moves. Like, if they want to carry on doing this, like, it's hard work for a very small development team. Because, yes, although Game Freak is... They own the most popular franchise on the planet, they aren't owned by Nintendo. They can't just hire new people. They also can't just delay the project. Because, yes, they have the money for it, but they probably don't have the manpower to delay it or just add all of the other Pokemon in when does it come out, like fall or December or something the game comes out. Like, they probably don't have the manpower just to do that. But I think I'm going to instead of talk about... Well, no, I'll talk about some of the other issues as well. Other people's issues are the graphics, and this is based off one tree. Basically one tree in a trailer looked kind of crap, and now everyone's saying that, oh, the game's like got like N64 graphics and that like it's awful and no one should buy it and support Game Freak being lazy. Like, first of all, I doubt it is, but if it is a beta build or an early access build that they were using at E3 or whatever, then it makes sense that a random tree is a bit low quality. And at the same time, are you going to not buy a Pokemon game, the first Pokemon game for the Switch, one that can have higher quality animations, one that can have probably the better story because it can do more things, one where they can put more detail into the towns, put more detail into the open world aspects? Are you going to not buy that game because a tree looks shitty? Like, I think you'll still buy it. If this game, and I know I think they're like, ooh, the Dexers, that's the name of the people that want to bring back the national Dex. Like, those people are like, oh, you can't use the story as an example because you don't know how many Pokemon, what the story's going to be like. Use the story as an example when you actually know what it is. And my argument to that is, alright, but you don't know how many Pokemon are getting cut. You don't know how many Pokemon are being added. You don't know if the animations were placeholders for E3. You don't know so many things about something that you're currently bitching about. Like, even though there's no national Dex, you have to think about that. To the fact if we have like 40 legendary Pokemon at this point, they would have to find like a way to incorporate 40 legendaries in a way that would make you would moan if it was grindy, and you would also moan if it was really easy with the ultra wormholes. The casual audience moans when something's hard, and the die-hard audience moans when something is easy. Like, I'm not saying that the only response to that should just be, oh, just cut it, but like, it's a lot to ask for them to like completely design new Pokemon, a new region, a new storyline, everything, and also just keep everything that already exists. No Pokemon game, besides Gen 1 and possibly Gen 2, has had, off the bat, every single playable Pokemon in it. We've had Pokebank for years, and we've been taking advantage of it for years. And yes, there's nothing like that for now on the Switch, but I do think this thing that they're adding, where you can bring Pokemon from Pokemon Go over to in Sword and Shield, I don't think they'll limit it there. I assume that when they bring out the next game for the Switch or whatever, you'll probably be able to bring your games from your Pokemon from Sword and Shield into that new game from the new Pokebank thing. And I think they've said that they're not planning on creating a game with all playable Pokemon in it, but I think that means they're not planning on creating a Pokemon game where you can catch all of them. I think obtaining all of them is still a possibility, and I think you will be able to use the app for it. And if you can't, if for some reason you have a Pokemon that you love dearly in your Sword and Shield data, and you can't transfer it over to Pokemon Light Switch and Tap, or whatever they make next, is it the end of the world? That Pokemon still exists. It's not going anywhere. Like, and that's the thing with, I think Callum Hoodlum's Crafty made a tweet where he was going to say something about the old Pokemon, and some guy retweeted and said, "Oh, how are you going to talk about all of the Pokemon when they don't exist anymore?" Basically referring to how some of them are getting cut off in Sword and Shield. And he just said, no, they still exist. Just because they're not going to be in a game doesn't mean the Pokemon still exist. Doesn't mean the Pokemon don't exist, sorry. And I think that that's how you should take this. Oh, the Pokemon that aren't being included, they still exist, they can still be used, but they're just going to be used in older games. And I don't think that that's an awful thing if they're removing the old and entering in with the new. If they add 140 new Pokemon and cut off 140 old Pokemon, I think that that's a perfectly fair trade. As, you know, you're getting essentially new content of new Pokemon we've never seen before, all of which, like, could become your favourite Pokemon, all of which could be part of your team, all of which could have niche competitive battling uses, or just have cool little, like, lore about them, or the way that you evolve them could be way cooler than get it to level 32. Like, them adding more newer Pokemon and getting rid of the older ones means that they can just do more stuff and they can experiment with more things. And yes, Dynamaxing may not be as glamorous as Mega Evolutions or even Z moves, but at least they're trying a thing. And I don't care if it doesn't look as flashy, as long as it's way more balanced for this, one, for the story, and two, for competitive battling. Mega Evolutions, if you heard of the Mega Charizard problem in X and Y, this was a thing that I think some crappy games reviewing company spoke about, but it is very true. X and Y, you can get a Charmander after the first gym. By the third gym, you can have it as a Charizard, pretty much, due to the massive gap in between all of the gyms. From that point, Mega Charizard will just carry you through the entire game, and you'll probably be able to defeat every single trainer with Mega Charizard besides the Water Elite Four. Like, Charizard, stupidly powerful, you can Mega Evolve him in every single fight, double his stats, double his speed, double his everything, give him insane attacking power and one-shot capability. Mega Evolution was not balanced. It was a cool thing that they added. They tried it, it didn't really work, but they kept adding it and they kept trying to improve it. And slowly they made it slightly more balanced than it was. Z moves were their solution. You basically pack the entire power of a Mega Pokemon into one turn. It can be used to knock out a massive wall like a Celesteela. Depending, Celesteela is very, very bulky. Or you can use stuff like Z Destiny Bond, which is a really cool idea in double battles, and they have these niche uses where random stuff like Z Recycle or something. I don't even know what that does, but for all I know, it could like increase all attack by like 50,000 stages, because Z moves were equally as powerful. And now, with the newer gen, they're trying the newest thing, which is the Dynamaxing, which looks like temporary Mega Evolution, which I think only lasts for like 5 turns or something. And it's just a cool idea. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. They'll try something again next gen. Not all of their ideas is going to work in the long run, but eventually they're going to find something that sticks. And it's good that they are trying new things instead of just keeping with the old. If they never introduced Mega Evolutions, if they never introduced Z moves, if we still just had the same Pokemon games, I imagine people would be complaining that they're not adding enough new stuff. And it... I think people have the right to complain about the game, but once it's out, or once we get a test demo, like a month before, I don't think you should complain when the game is 8 months off, asking them to, like, delay it, or crashing one of the developers' weddings. I don't care. Whatever you think of the game, you do not interrupt a wedding because you're upset that, like, Honchkrow won't be in the new game. Like, just stop with that. Like, stuff like that honestly makes it so I wouldn't be surprised if the developers just kind of stopped making Sword and Shield just to shut us up. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. And It's everything that Nintendo do now. Today, Nintendo put out a tweet saying it was a picture of the new starters, Sobble, Skullbunny, and Grookey, and they said, "Oh, for anyone that's not sure yet, people that already know what starter they're going to pick, tell the people that aren't sure what they'll pick why they should pick your favourite starter." A nice tweet which encourages people to talk about why they like the starter that they do and why other people should pick it. Every other reply in the tweet was, "Oh, but bring back the national decks. Hey, you should delay the game instead." There was one tweet that was like, "Hey, what I would tell all three of the starters to get on a boat and go back to Kanto so that they can see all the Pokemon that are getting cut." And I just replied to the tweet saying, yeah, they could do that. They could go back and see all of the old Pokemon, the ones that have been there for decades. Or they could stay where they are now and experience all new content that no one's seen before, which is going to be new for every single person playing it. And I think that's my problem with the people that are complaining so much about Sword and Shield. They're just not thinking about what the game might... I don't want to say might be, because that doesn't make it seem like I'm just focusing on what... Like, I'm just blindly believing what Nintendo and Game Freak are saying, but they are ignoring the possibilities that the Switch is providing, and we don't know if they are just ignoring all of the possibilities and making a crappy another 3DS game, because you're basing it on 2 hours of gameplay. Like, again, if we get a demo and it's crap and the textures are in 1.4p and it just looks awful and it plays horribly and Dynamaxing is awful and all the new Pokemon are pathetic and really underwhelming, then sure, complain. But right now, if you're basing your argument off a tree and like one thing at E3 that they haven't even specified yet, then I don't think that your complaints are that valid. And that's where I'm going to be leaving this off with my thoughts on Pokemon. And I also think that's going to be the end of the first episode of the SNT podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I think if I do make another one of these, which I might do, it'll probably be on the new Tupperware Remix Party album, because that's coming out later this month. And probably something else will have happened. But anyway, yeah, I'm happy that I've got a podcast now. It's fun to just sit here and talk. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time on the SNTcast.